What's up, guys? CraZi here. Today I'm bringing you guys a video that kind of something that's kind of been weighing on my mind recently, and I just feel like people should actually get a chance to hear about this. So one of the questions I get asked a lot when it comes to EMS and when it comes to my job, um, for those of you who don't know, I'm an EMT. Um, a lot of people ask me, like, how do I deal with the bad calls? How do you deal with the stuff that stinks? How do you deal with the the calls that you know are gonna suck, um, and the tragedy and everything? And it's one of the questions I get asked a lot. So I'm still young and I'm still learning how to deal with that, but I'm gonna give you guys some tips for those of you that are getting into EMS. Some tips that I found are helpful and that I've found from people that really help me. So first of all, for the smells and everything, um, and going into scenes where there's bodily fluids is, I guess, the best way to word it, all over the place. Always bring a spare uniform to work with you, even if it's just a set of pants or well, some places allow you to wear shorts. I wear shorts even though they're comfy, but I always have pants on the truck with me in case something like that. In case I'm going into a scene with something like that. So always bring a spare uniform, um, first of all, and then I'm lucky my station has a shower, so I get the decon and everything after a call like that. But my biggest tip to you is bring pants, like spare pants and wipes and hand sanitizer and stuff like that. I don't have. Oh yeah, I do have it on my desk. I always carry hand sanitizer. I always bring like a bottle like this and sits in the truck, and then whenever I see whenever I see we need more, I always just bring more in. I'm not a germaphobe by any means, but it's disgusting to have that stuff on your hands sometimes. But my big tip is kind of just suck it up and don't think about it. Especially for like bodily fluids. Blood doesn't bother me. Um, Honestly, really, it's very hard to see me get phased by something, and I've only been phased a couple times. But another good thing about hand sanitizer is it's got the strong alcohol smell. So sometimes, like, I know it sounds weird, but you just take a little spritz, I'll rub it in a little bit, and then put a little bit of it under your nose, like that. You can't even see it. Patients aren't going to see it. Um, and now all you're going to smell is the hand sanitizer. Or there's also Vicks Vapor Rub, stuff like that. So if you're worried about smells, that's definitely one of the best tips I learned, was to always have hand sanitizer available. So now all I'm gonna be smelling for the next like hour is gonna be that. So um, only thing that sucks is if you start sweating, it kind of runs down and it'll get in your mouth a little bit, but that's all right. Um, so anyway, the so let's talk about coping with really bad calls. So a lot of people, especially the younger people, I'm still young. Don't make. I'm not trying to make myself sound like I'm a veteran by any means. I only have 3 years in, but a lot of people that are really, really, really new, and just we suck at coping. And I'm young. I take everything to heart. I take every patient outcome to heart, and that means if it's a good patient outcome, I get excited. I get really happy. But if it's a bad patient outcome, I get really down on myself and I beat myself up a lot. And the best tip I ever got is, you guys know, in my videos I refer to him as John the Chainsaw Medic, which is Chainsaw Medic's his gamer tag. His dad is a paramedic. He's been in EMS for probably about 30 years, since he was my age. I'm 19. I think he's in his mid 40s now, and he's been in EMS for a while. And he looked at me one day, and after I had a really bad call, and he said, "If you don't talk to someone, you're gonna turn into me." And mind you, his dad is a very nice guy, very very great person. And I by no means mean any disrespect by this, but his dad has some really poor coping skills. He lets things bottle up. And that's what he meant by that, is actually you're going to turn into me, meaning you're going to turn into someone who's not the most empathetic anymore. And I mean, he's got a good bedside manner. He's a really good medic, but and he knows his stuff, and he can put that stuff into his hands. It's just sometimes, like, sometimes all a patient needs is a smiling face at their side, and sometimes people who are burnt out and people who've been running in EMS for 30, 40 years aren't able to provide that smiling face anymore. Because what a lot of people fail to remember is that it's even though it might not be an emergency to you, it's an emergency to them, and so sometimes they just need a calm, smiling face to tell them that they're going to be okay. And so the best thing to do is to talk to somebody, and if you don't like talking to someone, you're going to kind of have to suck it up, because what you don't realize is that you get it off your chest. Even if you're just talking to your partner and you're just like, hey, did you hear about what happened the other day? And blah, blah, blah. We had a cardiac arrest. It was a 3-year-old and we didn't get her back. That's not happened to me. It's just the first thing that popped into my head, because kids are what mostly bother people in EMS. Not that we don't care about adults, but it's just like kids are so young and innocent, and also kids get sick really fast. So I could be sitting here, like, if I was, say I was like 5 years old, I could be sitting here talking like this. Obviously not. You guys get what I mean. I could be sitting here having a conversation, and then 2 minutes later, I could be like really sick and like need to go to the hospital really fast. So kids, they compensate very well, and then their body just kind of gives up, and then they just crash. So kids actually scare the crap out of me, and so a lot of times, if you just talk to somebody, even if it's not like, hey, I need help, even if it's just, did you hear about what happened, and you just talk about it, sometimes that works. I also found that reading your chart, if it's still sticking in your mind the next day, reading your chart actually really helps, because because then when you read the chart, you can't sit there and be like, yeah, I didn't do anything, because you realize how much you actually did for that patient. So when I have a rough call, I purposely will leave the chart unlocked for like a day or two, and then because we have 72 hours to complete our charts, I'll purposely leave the chart unlocked and go back and read it and make sure I put everything in there the next day or something. And then that way it kind of calms me down a little bit. So those are the main two things. But another thing is just find something that relaxes you. Some people go to the gym. I'm trying to think of other healthy ones. Yoga. Going to the gym, yoga, getting a massage. The problem with EMS is sometimes we don't have the time to do that. I'm trying to think. My big thing is going to the gym. I mean, I'm not the finest physical specimen, but if I have a bad call, I use that as motivation to go to the gym. And lifting weights, cooking. That's another good one. I actually really like to cook, and for me at least, cooking I have to actually focus on. So it helps get my mind off that stuff. And I have the luxury of being in school, so if I really need to get my mind off something, I will go study. I'll make flashcards. I'll read the textbooks, stuff like that. So I'm lucky I still have a lot of things, a lot of options. But like I said, cooking, gym, weights, yoga, going for a walk or a run. You don't even necessarily have to go to the gym. Cleaning sometimes people just clean when they're stressed, and it helps them calm down. And that's all stuff that you can actually do at stations, at most stations, I should say. Like around me, at least, I'm lucky. I work in a suburban area, so we have there's an ambulance like in almost every town. So the furthest longest response time we have is maybe 5 minutes to a scene. So, I can go out and get ingredients if I need to cook, and I have those stores around where I'm close enough to the local, or I'm in the local, so I can quickly respond to a call and get there promptly. So I'm lucky in that sense. But even if you just need to walk, you can walk around the station, or you can go outside and walk You just have to be within like a reasonable distance of your truck. Um, Most stations have weights and stuff like that you can lift. My station has a gym, um, and you're free to use the gym as long as all your chores are done and everything. And like I said, we have a shower, so we can rinse up after we're done in the gym and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, you just gotta find something that relaxes you and try to make it so it's something. If not, it doesn't necessarily have to be healthy. You don't want to turn to drinking. You don't want to turn to. I for a while was smoking cigars every time I got stressed, and I was getting stressed every day, so I was like up to like a cigar a day, which is really bad. And cigars are good, aren't the worst thing for you. They're definitely not as bad as cigarettes, or drugs, but cigars are not the best thing for you either. Like they do take a toll on your health. So you definitely want to find something that isn't going to take a toll on your health. So that's why I said cooking, because you can cook something healthy. You don't have to cook a big feast. But even if you do cook a big feast, most stations you at least have a partner. You make your partner food, and then you save the rest. And you if you're willing to, you can give it to your crews that are coming on. You can take it to your next job. You can take it home. You have a meal for tomorrow, stuff like that. Like you don't have to just make a meal for just yourself. I cook at the station all the time for my partners. We have a grill. I barbecue. I make spaghetti. Even if it's just something simple, it helps. So, just my best advice is just to make sure you talk to someone and find something that helps. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're gonna let yourself get upset about every call, I can still smell that hand sanitizer, by the way. Uh, if you're gonna let yourself get upset about every call and take every call personally, you definitely need a coping mechanism, because you don't want to turn into someone that's cold-hearted, and you don't want to turn into someone that cracks under pressure because you're doubting yourself. And sometimes even the best thing is actually to go and read the protocols. Every state has the protocols for what an EMT can do and what a medic can do. And this actually doesn't just apply to EMTs. Even if you're a new medic that's out there, I'm definitely not like I said, I'm definitely not the most experienced, but I've learned a lot. I work on 2 busy ambulances. I worked on one of the busiest ambulances in my county at one point, and I work at events where we have patients all the time. So it's definitely just like I'm not. Years don't matter. It's about how many patients you've taken care of, and it's about what you've seen. But I haven't experienced it all, and I think I have experienced enough to be able to give you guys tips, like on what to do to cope with a bad call, because I've had my fair share of really bad calls. So, definitely just seek help. PTSD is something rampant in first responders as well as the military, and the older generations are raised to not feel. They're raised to separate themselves. And day one of EMT school, they tell you there's 2 rules in EMS. People die and there's nothing you can do about it. And I found that rule number 2 is a lot harder to accept than rule number 1. Because I've had patients that have died that I've done CPR on for where I was switching off with my partner and a couple other people for half hour, 45 minutes. And I've had those people die, and then I go home and I don't feel anything, and then I kind of feel bad for not feeling anything, but it's like, you know what? I think I don't feel anything because I've realized that I actually tried my hardest for that patient. And sometimes, though, even realizing that you tried your hardest for the patient is not good enough. And I'm not going to talk about specific examples I have of that, but I have my fair share of that. So definitely please seek help, and you're not alone. If someone tells you that they don't care, then you just need to find someone else to talk to, because there is someone out there that cares. The best resource, if you can't find someone that cares, is your boss, your chief. If you're working in a private company, whatever your supervisor would be. For me, I work at a firehouse. The fire chief has my back, and the EMS chief has my back, and I can go to either of them at any time if I need help. And there's a lot of guys with a lot more experience than me that I can go to if I need help. So you definitely want to make sure that you have those resources available, and if you don't, find out where they are available at. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys, and hopefully this helps some people that might be out there struggling. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time.